This is episode 33, the subject complement. So let's take a look at the following sentences. 1. You capture the White Queen. And 2. You are the White Queen. Now these sentences both appear to be grammatically similar, don't they? It looks as though they both follow the subject, verb, object word order and are therefore alike. But actually this is not the case. So let's look at them in a little bit more depth. First of all, you capture the White Queen. In this instance, you is the subject. What are you doing? Well, you're capturing, so that's the verb. And what are you capturing? Well, you're capturing the White Queen. And that's the object. So I think that we could probably put that sentence into the passive structure and it will work just fine. So let's try it. First of all, we turn the object into the subject, so we put that first. The White Queen. Then we put capture in with be beforehand, so we have is, so it matches the White Queen in the present form, and then the past participial form of capture is captured. And then if we want to put the agent in there, which we will in this instance, we have by you. That absolutely works. So yes, this is definitely a subject, verb, object sentence. Now let's have a look at the next one and see if that also follows the same rhythm. You are the White Queen. So in this instance, you is the subject, are is the verb, and what are you doing? So what is are? Well, nothing. You're not doing anything to the White Queen in this instance, are you? There's no action being put on the White Queen. So if the White Queen is not a recipient of an action or is not being acted upon, then is it actually the object of a sentence? And if not, then what is it? So I'm questioning now whether this is actually the object of a sentence, because it doesn't seem to be, we don't seem to be acting on it in any way. So let's see if we can put it into the passive form. Maybe that will confirm things for us. So once again, we'll put the White Queen into the subject position. And then we will put is. And then we turn are into the past participial form, which is been. And then we would have to add the agent if we wanted to, by you. Well, the White Queen is being by you. That doesn't make any sense at all, does it? So it's just wrong. Therefore, this is not a subject, verb, object sentence, an SVO sentence. All right, so we have to figure out what it is exactly. Let's do another test and try to flip the sentences around. So instead of saying you capture the White Queen, let's put the White Queen first again and say that she captures me. Now in this sentence, the meaning of the sentence has completely changed. If this were a game of chess, in the first sentence you'd have removed the White Queen from the board. But in the second sentence, she'd still be charging around taking your pieces. So I know which I'd prefer. Now how about the other sentence? What happens if we switch this one away? You are the White Queen becomes the White Queen is you. Well, here the meaning is not changed at all. We can flip both sides, both the phrases on each side of the verb around, and the meaning stays exactly the same. So therefore, in this instance, you are the White Queen. The White Queen is merely restating you in a different way. It's not providing an object, it's actually restating the subject in a different way. And we call that the subject complement. So there are a few things that we know about the subject complement, and I'll make a list for us here on the next page. If I can get it up. There we go. Okay, so what do we know? Firstly, we know that the subject complement always follows the predicator or the verb, but this verb has to be a linking verb. So we know it follows a linking verb. Now, examples of linking verbs are words such as the copula, be, which we'll have a look at in greater depth in the next video. So we'll put that down, so copula, and then I'll put be afterwards so you remember what that is. Then we have words like appear, become, seem, sound, smell, taste, turn, remain, grow, sometimes. I won't put that one on because it's not always consistent, but it can be, as we saw. Look and feel. So all of these verbs can take the subject complement. Now, the second thing we know about the subject complement is that it can either be a noun phrase or an adjective phrase. So let's write that. A noun phrase example might be something like, that is a very interesting dance. So a very interesting dance is a noun phrase. And an adjective phrase might be something like, your shoes seem so shiny. So in this instance, so shiny is an adjective phrase. And both of these are performing the subject complement. Okay. If the subject complement is a noun phrase, then do be careful because it all needs to match. For example, the shoe is an old shoe, the shoes are old shoes, they're fine. You can't say the shoes are an old shoe. That's just wrong, okay? So they do need to match. But that's pretty much all we need to know about the subject complement. The biggest difficulty is determining whether something is a subject complement or a direct object. If you're not sure, the best test is to try to turn it into the passive, and this will not work if you are dealing with the subject complement. Alternatively, you can switch the subject with the noun phrase, and that could be that could also work, and that will see if the meaning stays the same when you switch them around. Of course, if it's an adjective phrase, then it's most definitely a subject complement because, as we know, direct objects can only be noun phrases. So let's just put that into practice to make sure that we fully understand everything that we've just learnt. We'll do that here with these following 3 sentences. So you have a quick look at them first and you can tell me which of teacher, basketball and blue are subject complements and which of them is the object. All right, so I think that in the first instance we have a teacher, which is a subject complement. Now the reason why I think it's a subject complement are for several things. First of all, it's following a linking verb, the copula. So I know that it can't be the direct object. That's my first giveaway. The second thing I did really quickly was to say a teacher is been by Matthew, and that does not make any sense. And also I could say a teacher is Matthew, and that does make sense. So in all instances, a teacher is clearly the subject complement. I think that basketball is the direct object. And the reason why I think it's the direct object is, first of all, it's following the verb plays, and plays is an active verb. It's something that Peter is doing, so therefore it makes sense that basketball would be the direct object. I can turn it into the passive. Basketball is played by Peter, and that makes sense too. But if I say basketball plays Peter, well then I think it sounds to me like Peter's not doing very well at all. Okay, finally we look at the last one, and I believe here that blue is the subject complement. And the reason why I think it's a subject complement is, first of all, because it's an adjective, and we know that direct objects can't be an adjective. Also, it follows this verb appears, which is a linking verb. I know that. But if and finally, if I turn it into the blue appears his shirt, that works. Or blue is appeared by his shirt, that doesn't work. So when I apply all these things together, I can see that it's quite easy to tell the difference between a subject complement and a direct object. Okay, so I hope that's helpful. Before moving on to the next function, the next video looks at the copula, as I briefly mentioned earlier, which is the be verb. It's a beautiful relic of our Old English ancestry, but consequently it's probably one of our most confusing verbs. So I thought we'd just spend a short video taking a quick look at that. Until then, thanks for watching The Language Code.